Welcome to EntrepreNINES. I'm John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We are two Enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time. And this podcast is a space where we're inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. This is episode 35. 35. And John and I are so honest, we have to tell you this is the second time we've done the intro.
Yep, because I didn't hit record.
Super fans can go back and tally how often this happens.
It's far too often. It is far too often. I apologize. I will figure out a way to keep myself accountable for this in the future.
You would think we would both notice because the button is large,
bright, freaking red,
and rectangular. And when it's not recording, it is green, and when it is recording, it is red.
Yeah,
it's not subtle.
Yeah,
but that's okay. We only got like 5 minutes. No, not even that.
Not even
like 3 minutes in.
Yeah. We did not. There's been longer times. Let's face it.
Yeah, there's been like almost whole episodes.
Yeah, we won't talk about it. All right. So today
we are gonna do a little work like a 9 role play.
Yeah, like almost like a little case study of what it might be like to sit in a work like a 9 session, which I was just thinking, and I didn't mention this in our practice run. That we probably could do a recorded version of some of our meetings that we have and share a little bit of that on the podcast at some point. So we might do that. We'll obviously get
with permission
from all of our folks first. But so little case study. We had a question come in that's very business related, business specific. And so thought it might be a good opportunity to just take that question and kind of treat it like a hot seat. And do you want to kind of just run through what?
Yeah, no, I can run through
Oh, no. Sorry. So inside joke. That just became an inside joke. Bonni has a different name for hot seats, but she's not going to say it because she feels like it's very silly. Or are you going to say it?
I can say it.
Okay.
I was thinking about in our practice run when John was being so serious, I started chuckling to myself because I was like, well, it's 9s. We don't want to sit in a hot seat. We want to sit in like an attention beanbag.
You got to be comfortable and relaxed but
also like have your attention.
Yeah.
In my safe, cozy space. Yeah. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Okay.
What were you actually seriously going to ask before I started losing my professionalism?
No, it's okay. It's all right. We have fun. We're supposed to have fun here. Do you want to just talk about the difference between like a hot seat and a Q&A?
Yeah, I do. Because I think they sound the same on paper.
Sure.
However, they are a bit different. In that the hot seat is going to be questions submitted ahead of time.
Yep.
And so it gives John and I a little bit of time because we are facilitating the group. It gives us time to do a little bit of research, come up with some resources for you that we can give to you and the group. Yeah. And then it also allows all the other voices in the room to chime in as they feel so led, or if they have something to contribute, or if they have something that works for them. It gives like ample space to really dig into a complex question.
Yeah, 100%.
Whereas the Q&A is probably going to be a bit more surface.
Sure.
Quick answers, quick question like, what do you guys do to work around the fact that the Meta business suite doesn't allow you to schedule reels? What do you do about that? Yeah. And then we can give like surface answers to that really quickly. So that and we want to get
through a lot of them. We want that time to be getting through as many questions as we can in the time that we have allotted ourselves, because we know, I know from experience, like there's just going to be questions every time. Yeah. And the hot seat's going to bring some of those up, but there's just going to be questions you walk in with every single time. And we don't want you to walk away feeling like you didn't get an opportunity to ask something. So yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. So we're going to play this question. This is from one of our listeners. His name's David. We know David, but he asked a really good question about gaining clients. And so what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the question, then we're going to kind of address it as we would in a hot seat. So here we go. This is from David.
What would you suggest as far as gaining at least one client so that I can start having revenue?
So on the surface, kind of a simple, short question. But under the surface, there's a lot here. So I would say, first of all, I'll just give you a little bit more background on David's question. So he is looking at being kind of in the security space within real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's not a place that either of us have
I've never
expertise in.
Offered this service.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do think we can kind of apply some of the things that we've learned so far in business to his situation. So, first of all, I would just say something that we've talked about a lot recently, and both I think on the podcast and also just behind the scenes, is like, what's the problem? And like, even in the last podcast, you were talking about your coaching that you're doing right now, and how you were posed the question like, well, is that a problem everyone has, or is that or is that like is that a thing?
Yeah.
Like, and then you went and Googled,
Right.
and you're like, oh,
turns out it's not a thing.
Maybe that's not a thing.
Yeah. So the problem, how you're phrasing it here, the problem is,
Yeah.
what is the problem like you're trying to solve
Right.
for your clients? And then the question that destroyed me to follow up was, do they know it's a problem? Are they willing to pay to fix it?
Right.
And so that is a good first question to ask. And I'm sorry if it destroys you. It did me too for a while.
Yeah. Well, and like it, just to like, let's go look, right? Like, so
To the Google.
So if we Google, like, and I don't know if I'm Googling the right thing currently. I might have to change this a little bit, but real estate. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Real estate security services. So a lot of this that I'm finding right now is more kind of like commercial, and it's like full-time security, like 24/7 type of stuff. I think what I understand, because I've talked to David separately from the question, like what I understand that he's doing is more so like, going into maybe like homes that are listed ahead of time, making sure everything's safe, and I don't know, squatters, things like that aren't present, that type of thing. I'm not seeing a whole lot of like that specifically coming up. And so, I guess the first question that like I would ask David, and obviously he's not here to answer these questions, so it makes it a little more difficult, but like, have you seen this happening other places? Like, are other people offering this service? That kind of a thing. And that way, you can really kind of understand, is this a thing, right? Yeah. That number one, do I have competition?
Right.
Because that's good to know, because it's good to look at what your competition is doing and say, what are they offering? How much is it costing? All those kinds of things. Also, if there's no competition, it may not be a problem that needs solved. Right. And that's kind of what you've figured out.
Yeah. That's what I was directly told, actually. Yeah. So for one of my searchings, and I think even too, to just like reframe even what you're saying, is the competition can also become your cohort in a way. So if you can find those people, especially if there's a lot of other one-man security businesses in the world, then you can become a referral. And so that's one way to get clients as well, is if you find somebody who's really successful, then chances are they're going to get double booked at some point, and you can be a quick reference
100%
that you can be given. So that would, because too, a huge part of this answer is it depends on the industry, how you gain your clients. Finding people in your industry who are doing it successfully will become hugely important for you. Yeah.
And I think that I've had that, like that what you just brought up of making connections within your industry and not being afraid of them being quote unquote competition, like making those connections. Like I've had people who technically from a exterior perspective are competition who have called me and been like, hey, are you available on this day to help me with this? And I've done the same thing technically, where I've gone to them and said, hey, I need help with X, or do you know someone who could do this, because I got this call and that's just not up my alley. Like, do you know someone who could do that? So I think that is a great way to start, is to look at, number one, do these things exist? Because if they exist, great. Then you are solving a problem that people need solved. If they don't exist, then maybe is there something adjacent to that, right? Like that's kind of the direction you went in a sense. Like you were kind of heading in one direction. It's like, well, what's adjacent to that maybe feels more me or more like something that people do actually like Google, like,
yeah,
you know, how do I handle my deconstruction, you know, or something, you know, in your case. But yeah. And then also making connections with those people that you find, because they can become referral sources. And that's one way to get a client is a referral source. So that's one way. One thing I'll touch on real quick that was brought up in a group that I've been in, they had a guest person come on, and they brought him on because they wanted us to see a different model. And that model is basically high, basically lower prices, higher volume. So that's another way to think about how you might gain a client, is like, if you offer something at a price that somebody can't say no to, you know, they see like what you're offering and they're like, huh, that's a lot of value for that price. Then they're much more likely to buy it. At the same time, you have to understand that is going to mean you have to have a high volume in order to actually have revenue, you know, have profit, in order to have the profit come in. So wanted to throw that out there. I'm not sure that this is the best case study for something like that.
It might be.
It might be, because it just depends on how many listings you can get to in a day.
And it would be probably establishing what you do and then not reinventing the wheel every single time. So it would probably, if you went that way, you would have to be more rigid in that, no, I can't do an hour and 15 minutes for you. I can only stick to my hour.
Right.
Or if you'd like more time, you can then buy the 2-hour package.
Yep.
Because I'm not offering, 25-minute increments or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's probably where that comes in.
Yeah.
Just being really, that would be a more rigid.
Yeah. You have to have a set offering. Like, it can't be a per client decision on what you're going to include, you know? And for something like this, that sounds like it could be a possibility. Like, you could say, you come in and do a sweep 30 minutes ahead of time, and you do a sweep 30 minute, half an hour after. And like, that's an hour package, on either side of the showing or whatever. And then, you charge for that hour.
Yeah.
So that could be a possibility. And then having add-ons, things that you can add on to that, so that, there's a possibility that someone might invest more, if they find there's a value there. That's another way to do it too. And some of these, I think, like we're approaching it a little bit from what are you offering versus like, how do you find a client? Because if you just go out and start calling people without an understanding of what you're offering or the value that you're bringing, then they're not going to, you can make as many calls as you want, and they're not going to buy it. It
kind of sounds like, hey, I'm another person you could give her money to.
Yeah.
And we're all tired of hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a like, it goes to kind of the first thing that we were addressing as like, number one, like, what's the problem that you're solving? Number two, how are you specifically solving it? Like, what is your answer to the problem? How's it different from other people? What does that look like? Like, what actual value are people getting from the money that they pay you? So I think that those are two kind of essential questions to ask first.
I think some of like the broader practicalities to move forward a little bit would be to because it's a very local physical service.
You have to be present.
You have to be in the space. That means local is going to be important, and local connections are going to be important. So once you've defined your problem, how you solve the problem, if you're going to offer packages or not, showing up with that clear problem outlined to a place of business that can benefit from your services in a non-pushy, I'm here to serve kind of way where you can leave something behind, I think would be hugely important. Something that can sit on a desk, people can pay attention to after you've left, because chances are you're going to walk into a busy office. If you're cold calling, they're not going to have time to think about you, and actually if they can actually pay you in that moment, they don't have time to spare, most likely, if you're cold calling.
Right.
So if there's something you can leave behind, that would be super beneficial. And then once you do get your first client, referrals and testimonials, especially for the security line of work, seem invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to trust you with an asset and with my safety, I want to know that you're trustworthy. And I don't know that just by looking at you.
Yeah.
I need to hear it from other people who have trusted you and gain this benefit too. So it's hard before you've gotten a client because you don't have the testimonials. It's kind of like when you come out of school and you're trying to apply for entry-level jobs, and all the entry-level jobs are like, you have to have 3 years of experience. It's like, how does one do that? But I think that is really important. And then to offer referral discounts or bonuses of some kind so that you have recurring clients, because I can see this being a space where you have clients who come back to you.
100%. Yeah.
And they get something for doing the work of marketing for you.
Yeah.
That seems also like it would be super beneficial.
That's good. Yeah. I like that a lot. I'm sorry. I am searching for something right now that I feel like would be just a good thing to throw in here. Basically, there's a video creator I follow. Well, he's kind of turned himself into like a full-on like creator for himself. And he's basically been featuring different creators and how the frameworks they use for their businesses. And it's been really cool. I mean, it's all free.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool. And some of the things that he's been sharing have been really interesting. And I wanted to find this really quickly, and I'm searching as fast as I can. But basically, there's a videographer that he had talked to that he mentions kind of like these 3 areas that are kind of essential for how he does business with people. And part of it, and I'll keep looking, but part of it is like you have to earn their trust, right? Like people aren't just going to hand you money,
right,
because you say you can do something,
right?
Like you have to show them what you can do. And so it could mean offering something for free, like something of value for free is going to convince
one time,
one time is potentially going to convince them that you're trustworthy. It could, it may not, but it could. And so finding a way to build trust with whoever it is that you are approaching, whoever your audience is for your service, how can you build trust with that audience? You know, maybe it's your background. Like, so in this case, like if you have a security background, if that's the industry that you've been in for a while, well, then start to tell people about that. Like in what ways have you been involved in security? What have you protected? You know, what certifications or licenses do you have in order to do things like this? Like, so those are some of the things that you want to do, but then you also want to make it so that they understand that you understand that they're human, like that they're not just interested in your certificates, like they're interested in the person you are, and how you're going to treat them and their clients and their property. And so what can you do to show them that you're trustworthy, to show them that you're going to bring the value that you say that you're going to bring? I'll keep looking if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking too, as you were saying that means that you have to take because every industry has lingo.
That's good.
We all have lingo, and it is indistinguishable to other industries.
Yeah.
So, you know, John, don't come talking to me about, you know, all your lighting shenanigans, ISOs and f-stops, and I don't know any of. Oh, I do, because I've been a little bit in those industries before. Now. But but the client that you're serving isn't going to care about your frame rate.
Right.
Most cases.
Right.
So the same thing would apply here. The good security words might make you look smart, but they make you unrelatable.
Yeah.
So you need to start coming in speaking the language of the people you want to serve.
Yep.
So start learning, what are the words, what is the lingo, what is the value of the industry you're trying to serve, of the people you're trying to serve, and you take your language and then you shift it to fit their language.
Yeah.
And so if you're not doing that, if you're just coming in like, well, I do, I don't know security words, so I'm just going to make up a lot of nonsense. I come in and I take, my eagle eye overhead, and then after that we go down to the ground level slither and make sure that all the walls are affirmed and blah, blah, blah. I don't know any of that. But if you come in and talk to me like a real estate, this is an asset that you now have, and that is a potential for your profit. And you want to make sure there's not squatters, and you're sending in real estate agents who are female and don't want to chase people out, or raccoons. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My sister's sister-in-law, she always tells stories about chasing like random animals out of properties. Yeah. Which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Or like having to climb through a window because the lockbox wasn't working, or somebody didn't put the key in last time. Yeah. Things like that. So you can find stories that realtors have about this stuff, and then you can say, here's how I solved that problem. Mm-hmm. But you have to speak their language.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a lingo machine.
Yeah, you have to speak their language. I like what you said about how like you have to like kind of adjust your language to their language, because they want you to be the expert in what you do, because they're not. Mm-hmm. But you have to in some way you have to help them understand that you're the expert in that, while also finding a way to connect it to what they're an expert in.
Right.
Because exactly. Like, for example, did a shoot the other day with a PR person. I'm not going to tell them what I'm what frame rate I'm shooting and stuff like that, right? But I did mention, because like so in this case, they had somebody who was going to edit. I was just shooting. And so in this case, they're asking me questions about the B-roll that we're shooting and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm trying to give you as much as I can. And it's like, and also I'm shooting everything so it can be used in slow motion. That's all I said. She knows what slow motion means.
Right.
She didn't need to know I was shooting at 60 frames per second, because then you can slow it down 40% and it'll be in slow motion. Yeah. Like, she didn't need to know that.
If you would have said that, you would have sounded like a total woo-woo douchebag. Don't worry, ma'am. I'm shooting here at 60 frames per second, which means you can slow it down at a rate of 40%.
Yeah. No. So anyways, all that to say is just you don't have to you don't gain trust by being a lingo machine.
Yeah. You don't gain trust by sounding smart. You gain trust by being smart.
Showing people you're giving them the value that they deserve. And so, Okay. Sorry. I feel like my brain is swirling a little bit because I was looking for something, I couldn't find it. But, where are we?
Show notes. Well, we're about 23-ish minutes in, which is going to be about the length of a hot seat. Yeah. And so I do feel like this gives a good overview into if we were you, which we're not. And we both have come up with saying, we're not in the security industry. We don't plan to go into it. Right. However, based on our understanding of marketing and gaining clients and the things that we've learned ourselves, these are kind of the basic steps we would take to get started.
Yeah. So I think also when we get to the end of one of these, it's like reiterating some next steps and some things that we've talked about. So number one, is the problem a problem? Like, go do the research. Are you solving a problem with this idea that you have? Number two, once you have defined whether that problem is in fact a problem, what's your unique solution to the problem? What's the way you go about it? What's your offer? What's the value you're giving people for the money that they're going to pay you? And then third is, how do you demonstrate and gain trust from the people from the audience that you're trying to address? How do you go about demonstrating to them that you are the expert and you know what you're doing, but that you also understand their problem, that you have a unique solution, and that you're willing to talk with them on their level about it. So, and how do you go about doing that? Is it something free? Is it a discounted rate the first time? That kind of a thing. Or is it your background? Is it your authority that you bring along with you because you've been in security for 20 years or whatever. So I think those are kind of the three things that we touched on.
And I think the bonus would be find somebody else to
100%.
to connect with who's already doing this.
Referral business is far and away the highest converting business.
That's true.
For me.
Yeah.
I think it is for most people. Most people will gain trust in you because someone else told them that you did a good job.
Yeah.
So if you can have people who will refer you, then that to me is the best way to gain a business that will actually pay you money. So. Yep.
And that means buddying up with competition.
Yeah.
And not seeing them as competition, seeing them as a companion.
Oh yeah. And it could mean you spend a week with them going and doing what they do, maybe even for nothing. I mean, you may have to go and not be paid and just say, hey, can I tag along for the next 5 visits or whatever it is to see how you do this?
Right.
Because probably that company doesn't see you, if you're going to approach it that way, that company doesn't see you as a threat. They see you as someone who's learning, who wants to be a part of this same industry.
Right.
But especially if you can walk in and say, this is the problem I see. I don't see anyone else addressing it. You know, number one, is it a problem? You can ask them.
Right.
Number two, can you help me, you know, kind of address this problem?
Yeah.
Because I don't see you guys doing that. Is it something that you'd be willing to help me do?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, David, I hope this helps.
Yeah.
And for all of you listening, if this kind of talk, I don't know.
Processing.
There we go.
Problem solving.
Clearly I've used all my brain cells for the actual advice
portion.
Offering.
Yeah, that's okay.
If this sounds good and you have questions like this that you just want to hear, and here's one thing for me. There are sometimes questions that I have that I know the answers to, but I need somebody else to see how the answer fits for me.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so much harder, even as, you know, I've done marketing and communications and social media and trying to gain new people for years. And when I think about it with my own business, I'm like, and I need somebody else to see the potential for me.
Yeah.
Even though I know the basic principles, even though I've read the books, I've done the courses, whatever. Yeah. I need somebody to come in with a fresh eyes, say, here's the thing that you could do now. Yeah. And so I think that's a huge benefit for Work Like a 9. If you find yourself in that space, I know the things I should be doing. I'm still stuck here. Yeah. This is what a hot seat is going to be super great for. Yeah, because it's just it's a different perspective, and have you tried, you know, kind of a thing where it's like, oh, I see this differently than you do. So have you tried, you know? And I think that that's super valuable. I know from the group that I've been in that it has been business. Like I think I can confidently say like business changing for me to hear somebody else speak into it and say, but have you tried? Yeah. It's like, oh no. Yeah. Wow. Okay. For me, it's been, why are you discounting that you? Right. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Fill in the blank. Yeah. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's really good. A big part of it. Yeah. That's great. And I do hope one thing that will be different between our role play here in the podcast and a real life hot seat is John and I will be able to ask more clarifying questions. Yeah. And get feedback. Yeah. For sure. Which I think sometimes even just as a coach, I definitely know this. Asking questions can offer more answers than offering answers can. Yeah. Sometimes, so there'll definitely be a good balance of asking questions and then offering a potential solution to you. That this particular setup obviously did not have that capacity. We couldn't clarify. Yeah. So that's okay. Sure. But that's okay. Because this is a podcast, not a working group. Right. That's why there's 2 different things. Yes, and this one is free and the other one is not. Yeah. So on that note, feel free to join us for Work Like a 9. You can sign up on EntrepreNINES.com. It's $9 a month. You'll see all the information there. We've tried to kind of explain how everything's going to be broken down, how a normal meeting's going to work, all that kind of a thing. It's not too late to sign up. We had our first group. Yes.
but it's not too late.
Yeah.
So feel free to join us. We also have a Voxer group where we're going to be just allowing the conversation to continue outside of our 1 hour time during the month. So that'll be a lot of fun, I think, to have some space outside of the group to continue to get to know each other, throw some ideas out, that kind of a thing. EntrepreNINES.com to join us.
Yep, $9 a month. You can join whenever.
Yeah.
And then you can leave whenever. And then you can come back whenever.
Yeah.
That's kind of the model we're going for now.
Yeah.
So invite your friend along, and you guys can come together as a pair, and it'll be great.
You'll have a buddy.
I'll have a buddy.
And then we'll all be buddies. And then...
Yeah. And your buddy group will be bigger.
Oh, man.
That was good.
In the meantime, leave us a rating and review so other people can find us. And
you can find us on the internet. Obviously, EntrepreNINES.com is where we are all the time, but in the show notes, you can find our individual businesses as well as some links to things that we mentioned. John will actually find the thing he was trying so hard to find.
Well, I know the website, so we'll put the website on. I couldn't find the specific example that I was trying to hunt for, but I know the website.
Yeah, we'll
put that on there. It's more creator video centric kind of a site, but I think there's a lot of value there for any business person because it's how people are building frameworks within their businesses. So we'll put it on there.
Yeah. Anyway, in the meantime, join us for Work Like a 9 and tell your friends, and we will see you guys next time.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.